Have your MyNBA franchise modes gotten stale, boring, repetitive, unrealistic, all of the above? Well, I'm here to help. Over the last week or so on NBA 2K26, I've been going through tests to create my own roster, settings, and slider set to make your MyNBA franchise mode exciting, immersive, unique, and realistic. Throughout the video, I'm going to explain how everything works, and then at the end, I will show you guys how to download them. When I did this last year for 2K25, my main focus was on player progression. I felt that it was too predictable. A lot of the top picks always ended up panning out, but it was really hard to find gems, which it should be hard, but it should be possible. Nikola Jokic was a second-round draft pick. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning Finals MVP, was drafted outside of the top 10. Yeah, you're going to have some successful number one picks like Wemby, Edwards, and LeBron, but then Jalen Brunson was drafted in the second round. Nobody expected Jalen Brunson to be this good. Player progression is not supposed to be predictable. It's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to be unpredictable. So that's what I did. This year, my focus was on making the stats within the simulation as realistic as possible. So I have two one-year simulations here as an example. One with the Nuggets, one with the Pistons. We'll start with this one with the Nuggets. All of the settings are on the default. The rosters are the exact same when you load into the game. Let's look at field goal percentage here. There were 20 teams in the NBA this season that had a field goal percentage above 50%. That is not how it is in real life. This past season, in 2024-2025, there was one team who had a field goal percentage above 50%. The second place team in real life would have been 25th here in the game. They're a little bit better about three-point percentage, but still, the two-point efficiency with the base settings is way too efficient. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shot 61% from the field and 45% from three. This is one of the greatest offensive seasons at the guard position ever. And sure, if anyone's capable, it would be him, but even that seems a little bit unreasonable. 61% from the field as a guard who shoots quite a bit of threes, 45% to be specific. Yeah, that seems like a bit much. Trae Young is another good example of this. Last year, Trae Young shot 41% from the field and 34% from three. Throughout his career, he's been a really good scorer, but he's not been very efficient. How is his true shooting percentage, which has only been above 60% once, all the way up to 69%? That feels a little bit much, doesn't it? So, as you can see, the base settings, the base rosters, the simulation is just not realistic. Let's look at Trae Young in a long-term simulation I did, where I updated his ratings. As you can see, he's a lot less efficient. Now, at the end, it got drastic, less than 35%, and if you think that's a little bit extreme, yeah, you're right. There's a reason why this was just a test and not the final result. Obviously, I made some changes after because he should not be shooting 35%, but he also shouldn't be shooting 55% either. It should be somewhere in the middle. Let's go back to the Nuggets save file and look how many games played all of these stars were in for. There were not many injuries. In today's NBA, guys miss games, whether it's load management or actual injuries. The amount of players who played every game is not realistic. That's just not how the NBA works. And with all those guys playing so many games, that limits opportunities for younger players and rookies who are not necessarily in the rotation right away. So let's look at the simulation I did with the Pistons. My settings and sliders are updated. We'll go over these later, so you don't have to worry about copying these down. The rosters are updated. Everything is how it should be. Let's start with the field goal percentages. In the first simulation, 20 teams shot above 50%. This time around, it was only 3. Nobody shot higher than 50.2%. This certainly matches a lot more with real life. The Lakers, who shot 50%, would have been second in real life last year. In the first simulation with the Nuggets, they would have been 21st. Let's look at some stats now. Cade Cunningham led the NBA in scoring at just under 28 points per game. That being enough to win the scoring title feels low, right? Well, you would be correct. The fact that nobody averaged over 28 points per game is more of an anomaly, shout out Jason Tatum, as opposed to something you should expect. In most of your simulations, you should still have 30-point per game scores. This just happened to be a strange coincidence. Let's go back to Trae Young. Now, as you can see, his efficiency was still pretty solid. He shot roughly 44% from deep, which is also kind of an anomaly, especially considering his three-point rating is only a C+. You're probably wondering why his three-point rating is so low, because he's a good three-point shooter. I'll explain why later. Let's look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. These efficiencies are still really high, but they're a lot more similar to what he's done in real life. His point per game total feels a little bit low. I ended up switching around his tendency after this simulation, but for the most part, those efficiencies look a lot more accurate than the 61% we saw from him earlier. Let's look at the games played now. A lot more missed games from the league's best players. This is how it is in real life. Guys miss games. It happens. And thus, that means teams have to go deeper down their benches. That means more rookies are going to play. Look at a guy like Walter Clayton. He played in all 82 games here. I boosted his rating a little bit. Colin Murray-Boyles as well. Now, something extra with him, 2K got his age wrong. They have him in the game born in 2003. You can check the base roster. He was actually born in 2005, so I made sure to fix that as well. But as you can see here, a lot of rookies ended up playing meaningful minutes. I think 20 to 25 ended up playing at least half of their team's games. Let's go back to the simulation with the Nuggets, with the base sliders. As you can see, a lot less rookies got meaningful playing time. It was only 11 rookies who ended up playing at least half of their team's games. Look at a guy like Jeremiah Fears. He played 14 games. Unless he gets injured, there's no way he's only going to play 14 games. He was a top 10 draft pick by the Pelicans, a team that has every reason in the world to play him a lot this year. Now, he didn't even play that bad in the 14 games. His efficiency was honestly pretty solid. Let's go to the simulation with the Pistons. His numbers are worse, interestingly, but he had a long role in the rotation. He played 57 games. That feels a lot more realistic than the Pelicans putting him on the bench. Obviously, they're going to play him in some capacity, whether it's in the NBA or in the G League. They're not just going to have him rot. Let's look a little bit more at these rosters and the rating scale. I would say the biggest thing is not to get too hung up by the ratings themselves. Like Tyrese Maxey, for instance, he's a lot better of a scorer than those ratings suggest. However, Tyrese Maxey's a little bit overpowered in 2K. I had to buff his ratings a little bit. Sure, he's better than a B three-point shooter, but he shoots three-pointers at way too high of an efficiency in 2K simulation. Trae Young is another example. He's one of the better scoring guards in the NBA, especially being only 6'1". I had to nerf his ratings quite a bit, but since he still has the same tendencies and same badges, he's still a guy who should average roughly 25 points per game on reasonably efficient shooting. In the base roster with the base setting, he's going to shoot closer to 55%. That's just not Trae Young's game. He's shot above 45% in his career once. Cade Cunningham's another good example. Cade is overpowered in 2K. As much as I love the guy, he's my favorite player in the league, he's too good in this game. So I had to nerf him as well. His scoring grades seem low for a guy who just averaged 26 points per game, but you also have to keep in mind he's never really been an efficient player yet. His efficiency's gotten better every year, but his true shooting percentage last year was still roughly middle of the pack at best. I did another test to try to figure out which attributes are the most important. Here with the Thunder, we have an entire team of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but all of them have some sort of difference. This Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a 25 driving layup. As you can see, driving layup is pretty important. His field goal percentage went down a lot. This Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 25 driving layup, driving dunk, and close shot. Clearly, you need all three of those to be reasonably good to have a somewhat high field goal percentage. This Shai, his offensive consistency is at a 25. He only averaged 16 a game, but it's not because he didn't shoot the ball well, it's because he didn't get the ball enough. His efficiencies are really solid, which shows me the offensive consistency rating does not matter. The same can be said for shot IQ. That stat in this game does not matter whatsoever because his efficiencies were roughly the same as they would be anyway. 56% from the field, 39% from three. I did a longer test with the offensive consistency and the shot IQ ratings with Paolo Banchero. Paolo is an exciting on-ball shot creator, but his efficiency through his first 3 seasons with the Magic have not been very good. Despite that, in NBA 2K, he puts up pretty high field goal percentages. Through the 6 or 7 seasons that I simulated here, I put his shot IQ at only 25 overall for one of these seasons. Would you like to guess which one? Ding, ding, ding. The one with the highest field goal percentage and highest three-point percentage. Not only does shot IQ not matter at all, but there might be a correlation with the lower your shot IQ rating is, the more efficient players shoot the ball. So I was very specific with which attributes I changed for players within my roster because some, like driving layup, driving dunk, close shot, actually matter. Offensive consistency and shot IQ do not matter, at least in the simulation. Another thing I made sure to do was patch the players who are super overpowered, many of whom I went over in the You Need to Trade for These Players video I uploaded a couple days ago. Scoot Henderson, for example, literally turns into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with his efficiency around the rim. Maybe Scoot Henderson becomes a really good player. He should not consistently become Shai. Jalen Green and Cam Thomas, a lot of these microwave scoring guards, they end up becoming way too good. Josh Giddey as well, a guy who fills up the stat sheet in every which way. His shooting efficiencies are a little bit too much. So let's see how these players ended up doing with my sliders. Scoot Henderson here is an 82 overall. He's a pretty respectable player, and he's got the field goal percentage to be somewhat high. He's definitely not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, though. Josh Giddey, he is on the Hornets in this simulation, and he is currently a 78 overall, which I feel like is pretty accurate to where he is as a player. And as you can see, his efficiencies are not the best, which has been the case with him throughout his career with Oklahoma City and the Bulls. Jalen Green with the Suns is an 83 overall. He's a respectable scorer, around 20 points per game on decent shooting. Pretty much the exact same player he was with the Rockets, which kind of follows his development in real life. From when the Rockets drafted him to now, he really hasn't changed a whole lot. Through the 5-year simulation, again, he hasn't really changed a lot. He's an athletic 20-point per game scorer who isn't very consistent, doesn't really play great defense. That kind of follows the model of what Jalen Green's development path has been in real life. So you can see these settings and sliders being a lot more realistic than what we saw with the base rosters, with Jalen Green averaging 30 points per game on good shooting. I'm going to show you guys how to download these settings in a second. So again, you don't have to copy them all down, but I do want to explain some of them in depth a little bit. Here are all the difficulty sliders. The thing you'll notice here is that I knocked up the injuries a lot to 78. I feel like that's kind of a realistic number to where you'll notice it, but it's not too much. If you put it at like 100, it's going to be a little bit ridiculous. I've seen Russell Westbrook make the All-Star team with the injury sliders super high. The simulation stats here are really cool because I can basically determine what stats are important in the league. As you saw in the one simulation, 20 teams finished with a field goal percentage above 50%. So I was able to knock down a lot of these shot percentages to where the field goal percentages across the league are a lot more realistic to where we see in real life, and the two-point shooting in simulation is not as efficient as it is in NBA 2K. Again, a lot more like what we see in real life. Last year, I put the player progression rating at 25 and the regression rate at, I think, 75. I think pushing them closer to 50 actually makes sense because even if the player progression rating is low, the players will still progress. They'll just do it slower. So I feel like those are more realistic. I liked fiddling around with the progression and regression sliders. I think the biggest one for progression is probably three-point shot. I feel like it's too easy for players to develop three-point shots in this game. And then in terms of regression, I feel like once players get past the age of like 30, their inside scoring completely falls off the face of the earth, which should not be the case. LeBron James, for instance, at 40, can still get to the basket with no problem. Contracts as well, I've made sure these are realistic. I know everyone gets annoyed when they see a bunch of 85 overall players stuck in free agency in the preseason. Well, have no fear, that will no longer be the case because during the actual free agency portion, their asking prices are going to be a lot more reasonable. With these sliders, you should not find any free agent above an 80 overall still in free agency going into the preseason. So the last order of business is how do you download these rosters and settings and sliders for your MyNBA franchise? Well, there are a few different ways to do it. So first, you will go into MyNBA. You'll click the modern era because these settings and sliders are specifically designed for today's era. And then you'll click custom roster. You do not have to click customize simple or advanced settings because we're going to do that later. From there, you'll go to user created roster, and then you will type in the roster as I have it spelled up on the screen. You can also type in my PSN as well, so, I mean, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. but if you choose content name, this is what you're going to type in. Octi Best Rosters, one word, capital letters, and then you'll download it, and there you go. Now you're going to pick a team. You can pick whoever you want. For this example, we will pick the Atlanta Hawks. So now I get into the MyNBA save file, and this is where you download your settings. So what you're going to want to do is go into settings. Shocker. Look at the bottom left. Triangle is what you would click for loading rosters. I think for Xbox, it would be the Y button. And then from there, you'll type in what my settings are called, and then you'll be able to download them. Not only will you be able to download these settings, but these are also these sliders with the progression and regression rates and the contracts. All of that are directly saved under these settings. There's another way, though, to download these rosters if you want to go into a shared scenario. I'm going to do this for my Rollers franchise that I've recently started, the expansion team, so you can hop into my scenario and play along the season like me. This is a normal scenario, though, just with the regular 30 teams. It's called Octi 2025. What I plan on doing once I get some time is to move all of the picks around the league to make sure they're correct. The Hawks, for instance, on draft night, they traded for the Pelicans' first-round pick. In the game, the Pelicans still have it, which is not correct. So at some point, I don't know exactly when, but at some point, I'm going to try to switch all the picks to make sure that they are correct. So that is pretty much everything we have to go over today. I know it was a lot, but I hope everything made sense, and I hope you guys were able to download the roster with no problem and ultimately enjoy using them. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new for more NBA 2K26 content. Peace out.